minutes to start to join us. In the meantime, I'll get you caught up on what's going on. Today's podcast is with Uniclutch. I don't know if anybody's seen the Uniclutch stuff that's out. It's a pretty interesting concept. They use an adapter plate, which is specific to the vehicle, but then after that, you really can use any one of their clutch kits on any of the vehicles. So they kind of way of standardizing the clutch kit that they use to the adapter. It was interesting. These guys are in Australia, which, you know, it's probably like, I don't know, 4 a.m. their time right now. But they put out a product that people are starting to use more and more here, especially in the States. And it was cool to talk to them about some of the different technologies that they have. Because one of the things I think is super interesting, besides it being a very streetable twin disc type setup, is the fact that their clutches are actually staged in power, right? And the amount of power that you get with basically their standardized type of clutch kit is pretty high. I think it was something like 600 foot-pounds of clamping torque or something like that.
I think it was 700. It was up there.
Yeah, it was up there. So that's pretty good bang for the buck, you know, once you get that established. And once you have the vehicle adapter, the fact that you can have one clutch kit or one spare clutch kit, especially for those that are people that are racing, where you have multiple cars out there, and maybe you have to have a spare clutch for each car right now, but, you know, just in case you go to the track, but now you can have one clutch as a spare for all your cars. It's an interesting concept. So anyhow, we spoke to them. They gave a kind of broad overview, and they got cool accents, so that always makes it worth it. And then don't forget the podcast. Don't forget this Friday, a piece of content coming live to you. Look out for that. So we do that on our YouTube channel. Make sure you get subscribed.
Yeah, Alan Boss Car Anatomy.
Yep, there you go. Alan Boss is a pro spec driver, and he's kind of new to our stand, but he's a super cool dude, and he does a pretty interesting job. So make sure you check it out on Friday. All right, let's get into some Q&A. You have any questions, let's throw them in. I'll be happy to give it to you. We'll answer these the best we can here.
I might as well start out with, there's a couple here that are asking about Hyperspec updates.
Yeah, so Hyperspec update it depends on the part number. I have seen actual documentation where some of them are starting to arrive in about, I think next week. Some of them are arriving next week, and then different part numbers are coming in at different times. So over the next, I would say month or so, you're gonna see like most of the part numbers come into stock, but right now I know that there's some starting to come in next week. So if you have a question with that, we should have some pretty decent ETAs at this point as far as knowing when they're coming in. So if you want to shoot us a message, DM, or go onto our website, and you can always speak to Nick during business hours. He types there. Yep, we have a live agent.
I've got a specific question about a specific,
Just
a size, yeah. So this guy's asking, what about specifically the Anthraite Hyperspec with polished lip 18.9.5 plus 35? Are those in yet?
No, they're not in yet. In fact, I think those are a little further out because, ironically, I just picked up a 3000 GT VR4 not too long ago, and I've been working on it kind of continuously to kind of get it up to snuff. And I'm actually going to put a set of those in bronze, I think, on the car.
Nice.
And I think the bronze we're going to be in, I think the bronze come in like end of next week or something like that. But I think the other ones are a few weeks further than that. So probably early August, if I remember correctly, somewhere in that area. Mm-hmm.
Christian says, hola from Mexico.
What up, man?
Mexico.
Mexico, holding it down.
Kobe with the B says, do wheels affect miles per gallon? I've got Konig Myth wheels for my Ford Maverick.
Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah, they can, but I don't know if it's necessarily about the wheel as much as it's about the unsprung weight, right? So obviously, you know, there's two kind of physics pieces to this. Now, how much it affects it, that's always going to be the arguable part. It definitely can feel like it affects it, but if we put a heavy wheel on the car, naturally we're going to lose gas mileage, right? There's no secret there. You got to turn that power, you turn that weight somehow. When we take a wheel and we start now talking about it just from a diameter standpoint, sometimes that can have a little bit of an effect. Now, why is that? Because theoretically, you should be using the same overall rolling diameter tire. So why would it be that some of the diameters could change things? Well, the first thing is usually as you go up in diameter, sometimes you go on to more width. That can play with, you know, some of the coefficient of friction that it takes for tires. That gets a little, you know, technical. The second thing is that when we start to talk about diameters increasing, that means the weight of or the weight that the unsprung has to be turned is actually changing its leverage point. With all that said, I don't think if you're going to a wheel weight that's going to be within a stone's throw, you know, 10 pounds, 12 pounds different, you might see it more on a racetrack setting in your time. But as far as miles per gallon, the noticeability in your gas mileage should be fairly small, especially if you do more highway than you do, you know, city driving.
We got a is the Mark I wheel trackable?
Of course, yeah. First off, it's flow formed, and second off, I mean, I think out of the flow form wheels that we have, the Mark I is definitely not going to be the lightest, right? Like it was never designed to be the lightest. But it certainly is capable if you want to take it on the track. Absolutely.
Mr. Toral Ducks, he thinks I'm ignoring his question, but his question was, are those wheels behind you 30s?
30s?
Which they're definitely not 30s, but I believe they're 18s. Because the 30
Do you know
would be
anybody that makes a 30
huge.
anymore?
I mean, maybe like the Amish, you know,
No,
on a carriage,
I mean,
you know,
like, but even some of those, some of the, you know, like the
the slabs
the
and like
Asantis and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Even those big boy companies, I don't even know the 30s are
I've seen
common.
24.
Well, no, I've seen those guys run, you know, 26s and stuff like that. But man, you're taking it back.
30s would be crazy. Even with the donks, I would think 30 is, well, maybe 30s. You know, the big donks. All right, we got Ange asks, is camber bad for your wheels?
Well, first off, as far as wheels go, I would say it's less have to do with the wheels and more to do with the tire, right? Camber is one of those things that's very unique and subjective. You could dial in camber settings where the car is maybe a little bit out of spec, but still completely safe and tolerable depending on what your car's ride height is and different things like that. You could also change the camber to the point where it really gets wonky and will wear the inner side or the outer side if you have like positive camber of a tire. But what I will say to you, in my experience, and this is off the record, right? But my experience, the most intricate setting that can cause tire wear is usually the toe, right? The toe adjustment usually is a thing where if you have the toe wrong, you will blow through tires. So as far as the wheel goes, I mean, if you're asking if like there's any, you know, structural thing or a weight thing, I mean, I guess it depends on how drastic in what you're hitting and what you're riding on. I mean, think about it, you know, it's what's touching the ground. So I guess if you point the wheel really aggressively this way, like some of those guys do, and then they lose their tire, potentially, but you want a more specific answer, just ask again.
Jason says, hola, hermano.
Oh, what's up, man?
What's up, Jason? Rocco asks, Hyperspecs on a Golf 8R, good or bad idea?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Great idea.
Yeah, it's a great. I think it's gonna look fantastic. Down here is looking super forward to the 19 by 9 ET42 version with the anthracite with the machine lip. So, you know, and he's got a Volkswagen. That's what I said. Mr.
Turtle Duck, who asked about the 30s, says, my dad has a Hellcat Magnum on 30s.
That's crazy.
Your dad's wild.
You know what? You know what always got me with those things? Like, as cool as they potentially could look, there is no size tire that's appropriately load rated for that type of height.
Right.
So like, man, you are on the rubber band, you know?
But do they make a tire that's that diameter? Or
yeah,
there's
yeah, of course. Well, I mean, they don't just paint it on.
They don't just stretch it like crazy.
No,
okay,
you can't change diameter.
BJ asks, what width wheel for a 255 tire class limited road race would be ideal?
So look, here's the thing. You have to use according to two things. The first thing is whatever the manufacturer's tire rim width range is, you want to be within there. I always say that, you know, the best thing to do is kind of shoot for the middle of that range. So if it says, you know, let's say, you know, it will take between, you know, a 9 and 10 inch, you know, shooting at 9.5 inch, is really a good look. It's kind of the sweet spot for the tire. Now, there's ways to play with that if you want a stiffer sidewall or not or anything like that. When it comes down to, is there the ideal wheel for a 255? I think in general, you're probably going to be looking in that 9 to 9.5 inch range. That's probably going to fall into the sweet spot for most of those tires. I bet you most companies are probably going to say that their approved rim width is about 8.5 inch to 10 inch. So I think 9.5 inch is probably going to be the sweet spot. So I hope that answers your question, but check the manufacturer's website.
What's the widest? What's the widest you could go there, you think?
It's just not a good question, because the problem is that, like, on a 255, theoretically, depending on what the aspect ratio is, you potentially, depending on what kind of level of stretch, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of variables that can play into it. So
makes sense.
There you go.
Little Drifts
Yep.
says, you.
What up?
What's up? Bmx Gravy says, Wheel Wednesday, let's go.
Yeah, I know, right? Feels good.
They also ask, I'm looking to put wheels on my CRZ.
Yeah.
My tire size right now is 205, 55, 16.
Okay.
What would y'all recommend? I'm new to stuff like this.
Yeah, so it really depends on what size wheel you're going to end up running, right? If you go to a 17 or an 18 and what that width ends up being. We, back in the day, when Honda released the CRZ, we actually had, Honda contacted us to build one that we, had for a few years. We kind of did some customized parts in it, and then we ended up bringing it to the SEMA show, and it was in the Honda booth during the SEMA show. When we did that, I believe we used a 225, because we had 18.5s on the car. I think we used like a 225 35 or 225 40. Don't quote me on that, but it was right in that. It was right in that realm. 225 40 sticks out in my head, but I mean, it was like 16 years ago or something like that. 15 years ago. So with that said, the easiest way to figure it out: go to a website like Tire Rack, and when you get on the Tire Rack's website, pick a wheel purely at the size that you're looking for. You don't really have to concern yourself with anything else. Just pick the size. So if you pick an 18 8.5, or if you pick a 17 by 8 or a 17 by 8.5, whatever you decide on the size, and then go to the cart, kind of build a package. And what it's going to happen is when you build that package, because you've already put your car in, it's going to say, we would pair it with this size tire. So that's the easiest way to figure it out if you don't really kind of know what you're looking for, how to use a tire calculator. Hope that helps.
And says, I need some help. Should I negative camber my wheels?
All right. So when you say should you negative camber it, why are you negative cambering it?
We've got a good.
We gotta have a discussion here. We gotta know what's going on. Tell me the details.
Good follow-up response actually by Brian, CLT Brian. What's up, Brian? He says, and negative camber should be used to either fit wheels under the fender or to achieve a better turn-in response when driving.
Right, and also to properly align a vehicle that's not going to necessarily need to have any other things, right? So the idea of making camber or using camber is an adjustment tool, right? You have negative camber when the wheel's kind of inbound on the car like this, and positive camber when it goes the other way. So positive camber where the top of the tire actually goes outbound of the wheel well. Negative camber being when the top of the wheel goes inbound. You don't ever want to get too far in one way or another. People sometimes, like Brian pointed out, that they use it to actually compensate for maybe picking up a wheel that wasn't really fitting in the first place. I always caution people on doing this. I believe, in my opinion, is to get the correct size fitting wheel and tire from the start, right? But let's say you found yourself in this situation. Adjusting camber can change the cars, just like Brian said about the turn-in response. It can have an effect on the way the cars handle. And because of that, you always want to make sure you're doing it with kind of an eyes wide open type of thing, even when, even when you're asking somebody else to do it for you, right? It's the best way I can answer it. Tell us why you want negative camber. Is there a reason? Are you trying to fit a wheel that doesn't fit? What's the specs on the wheel? Is it one of those things where you just want to know if you should add negative camber for the hell of it? Do you race? Do you, give us some more so we can try to help you.
Garren Lawn says,
Yep.
What's up, dude?
What up, man?
I'm using the Ampliforms on my car right now.
Boss.
Nice. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Hell yeah.
Appreciate you, man. Really, really do. It means a lot to us, and I think I asked this last week, but if you guys are, any truck people, do us a favor, spread the word. MambaOffroad.com, MambaWheels.com. It's a offer a line. We came up with 2 new wheels. Really kind of stoked. They're good looking wheels, man. They're sharp looking wheels. And in addition to that, we also have the HT1 and the HT2 that are on the Konig site, which are flow formed. The M28 and 29 are also flow formed, but a little bit more tuner inspired on the HT1, HT2 wheels that you can find right on the Konig website.
Awesome. Hans Orbital says, in my opinion, for the track, 255 should take a 10.5-inch wheel.
See, that's interesting because I would always say, like with a 255, that probably. So you're of the opinion, Hans, that going to a more of a I don't want to say a stretch type of fitment, but almost to the where you're really taking up most of the room in that sidewall, kind of giving it a stiffer feel because we're kind of stretching it out a little bit. That's your.
He actually has a follow-up. You actually want that stretch, he says. Yeah.
So Hans. So just for context though, Hans is a very, very I'm going to say accomplished, but also seasoned racer, and he races a lot in the I think GLTC, right?
Yep.
So Grid Life series, and so his experience comes from looking for a certain handling characteristic, and you have to decide if which one works best for you. So yeah, I mean, good insight from Hans.
Ryan says, I got a set of Hyperspecs on order for my Toyota 86 in 17.9 anthracite finish, and they can't come soon enough.
I know. And I saw that, just so you know, I just saw paperwork on 17 by 8s. I know that they're on the way. The 17.9s, I don't know if I've seen the paperwork exactly yet, but the 17.8s are definitely on the way. So
on an 86, that'll look good.
Yeah,
that'll look good. Victor Green says, I have a Model Y Performance lowered and looking for a 20 by 10 and running 295s. What do you recommend?
I don't know how much we have for that. The only wheel that I know right now that we are going to have is we have the MRK1 XR. So the Mark 1 XR. If you want to go check it out on our website, check it out. That wheel we do have in that.
You want me to grab it?
It's okay. It's very Mark 1 stylish. It's bulky. It carries your load rating for sure. It comes in black or in flash silver. Yeah, this is the guy. This is the black one.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, this is the black
That's
one.
That's a nice wheel.
But there's also a flash silver one. Well, not flash silver. What silver is it? What's it called? It might be
ash silver.
No, it's not ash silver.
Titanium metallic?
No, it's just.
We'll
just
keep going. We'll get it one of these.
Silver, but it's a really good like semi matte silver. And those two wheels will probably be right in the area of where you need to be. They're on our website. You can check them out.
Let's see. We got Walk Down saying, can you give me a quick basic explanation of offset?
Yeah, sure. So, all right. So essentially the definition of offset is basically if you took the wheel and divided it dead in half, that would be the center line of the wheel, and that would be at a 0. So the offset is essentially the distance between the center line of the wheel and where the mounting pad would sit on the wheel, right? That's really what offset is. It's basically just how offset in millimeters the mounting pad of the wheel is in reference to the center line. Now, what does it mean? If you have a positive offset, it means that let's say you have an 8-inch wide wheel, and it's 30 millimeters. It's a plus 30 millimeter offset. That means where the wheel mounts onto the car, where the mounting pad that touches the rotor that bolts up to the vehicle, it's 30 millimeters offset toward the face of the wheel, which ultimately is going to bring the wheel 30 millimeters inbound more toward the car. I think I explained that well enough, but if you have any other questions, let us know.
LS13 Coupe, Jace Habek, who's in Formula Drift.
Cool.
He says, that's what I run 2.5 or 10.5 on a 255. It has perfect stretch and in my opinion helps keep tire on the wheel at low PSIs.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, again, this is, you're talking about drifting. A professional drifter, and the idea there is they're trying to air down quite a bit. They lower the air pressure, and because of that, they're trying to retain that bead make sure that bead seat stays intact with the wheel to the tire to make sure that they don't have any debeating things. That's no good.
Last call for questions. Anyone's got any more questions, pop them in the comments below. CLT Brian says, which black wheels would look good on my new daily? The car it's not going to be lowered. Looking for 18.5 on an 11th gen Civic.
I mean, it's really personal preference. I think we have just about almost every wheel in that spec that works perfectly on that car. So I think it's just a matter of what your preference is. What color? Did he say what color it was?
Black wheels. Didn't say the color of the car.
He wants black wheels?
He wants black wheels, yeah.
You could always do the Hypergram in black. I think the Decagram is an interesting choice.
Hexaform in black would look good.
Yeah, I think it would look good. I mean, it really is personal preference. It's really tough.
We actually did the fit check as well on the 11th gen.
Okay.
So if
there's a fit check on our YouTube channel too, so you can go
white
check
car.
that
He
out.
says. He says
Oh, it's a
white car. Yeah. You're going for the panda look.
Listen. Here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say don't do the black wheels. Go matte gray. I think that they're dark enough that you get that dark looking kind of menacing look on a white car, but they're light enough that you actually see some detail and it doesn't turn into the black blob. So when it comes down to 18.5, I'm trying to think like when it comes down to the matte gray, what are the what do I feel would be like super perfect on that car? You can also throw Mark 1s on there now that I think
That'll look
about
good.
it. But I'm trying to think.
Not Renform in that grip. Renform on 11 gen would look weird.
This is really. I'm trying to think what would look the best.
I mean, you can't go wrong with Hypergram in that gray.
Hypergram's an easy choice.
He's done that a couple times too. You could do F3S if you want to go forged.
I mean, I would
that
love
would look awesome.
the F3S, but that might be out of his daily budget. F3S would look sick.
That would look great on there.
Yeah.
We've seen it on the 11th gen before. It looks great.
In my opinion, I would go matte gray. I think you got something there.
JP says, also like CLT Brian's question, what's a good silver 5-spoke 18.5 that's lightweight compared to OEM for my 11th gen Civic as well? Let's see, silver 5-spoke.
For us, I mean, when it comes down to 5-spoke,
the Ultragram would look. I mean, that's a 7-spoke, but
yeah, it's a 7-spoke. I mean, the Ultragram is a good looking wheel. I can certainly see that working without issue. But
what about Hyperspec will fit 11th gen, right?
Yeah, we just don't have it yet. But the Hyperspec would be good. I mean, it's not I don't know if it's silver, but it's got the machine lip with. It's got the machine lip with that anthracite finish. The other thing is that the Hypergram that actually is there with the machine lip and the carbon dark center, that would look pretty awesome on that car too.
That would look good. JP says he's got a red Civic, maybe bronze wheels, maybe. I think personally,
it's possible.
Yeah, that's personal preference though. You gotta kind of.
Good.
All right, couple more.
Yeah, because Scott's gonna fall asleep.
Yeah, a couple more. Herra Pete says, "Are you guys gonna make the Mark 1s in a 16-inch size?"
No, but if you want a breaking news thing, stay tuned. We are making it in a 15-inch size, and that I think you'll see right at the end of the year.
That's awesome. Okay, what bolt patterns?
Pretty much 400.
400. Okay, sweet.
I think we
Civic sizing.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
I mean, well, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. CLT Brian says my new daily is going to be spoon inspired, but I'm not trying to drop 4K on legit spoon wheels. Makes sense. Yeah.
That makes sense. Spoon stuff. I would say hexaform. I think it's an option that kind of puts you in that feel. What size is he looking for? What size are you looking for?
He actually dropped the size. He said he wants 18.5.
I think the Hyperspec really would be a good wheel for you.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
I think it kind of checks those boxes that you're looking to check. So that's interesting.
Herra Pete asks, those new 15-inch Mark 1s, are they going to come in 5 and 4.5?
I don't believe so, but don't hold me to that yet because I don't remember. I mean, we do some of this development like for a lot of different wheels at one time, so.
Fat Thor says Ultragram in 1510 for Miata's 4 and 100.
I
think
don't think the Ultragram, right? I don't believe we did the 15 by 10 in the Ultragram, but we have some other things. Check out Goodwin Racing's site. They have a lot of different wheels that we make in all the different sizes. Decagram definitely for sure. we have it in 15 by 10.
All right, I got final two questions.
Mm-hmm.
Finn asks, what tires should I get? I have a Toyota Mark V Supra. My tires look like the top of your head. Bald, huh? Okay.
I get that.
Yeah, time for new tires.
I don't know what tires you get. I mean, the truth is that depends on your use case. I will say that, like,
What would you put on if you had a Mark V?
I think it depends on what my use is. You know what I mean? If you're running around every day, maybe whatever. Some of the Falcon tires are really cool. They have a few different options that give you that ability to either go, ultra low tread. Where the Nitto stuff, I think, works out real well many times.
So if you had a Mark V, you wouldn't put like expensive tires. You know what I mean?
I mean, if I was going on to a racetrack, I think I would.
Okay.
It has everything to do to me with what kind of tire you're really looking for. The tires are very much like wheels in the sense you want to pick the right one for your use, right? You're going on the track, you're going to whatever you want to lower tread wear depending on what different series that you're competing in or whatever it may be, or if you're just going out to have a good spirited track day. And then in addition to that, you want to find the one that's gonna last you the right time. Good if if you're gonna drive in the rain on them. Does it have wet performance? There's factors that go into it. So kind of running through some of the stuff. All
right, Walk Down asks, do lower positive offsets sit closer than the outside of the fender than higher positive offsets?
Wait, say that again. It was really weird.
Do lower positive offsets sit closer to the outside of the fender than higher positive offsets?
Right. The lower the offset you go, the more the wheel would be outbound, of the car. The higher the offset is, the more it would go inbound toward the car.
Okay.
So inbound toward the strut, right?
Last two people asking for recommendations from you. We got Efren asks, 2017 Nissan Sentra daily driver, maybe looking for a concave wheel look. Any recommendations? Black car.
Look, here's the thing, and I hate to spoil your day here. You're never going to find a concave wheel for your car. Yeah. And here's why. You just can't make a concave wheel in a high positive offset and a narrow width. And that car just cannot take too much more. Just keep in mind this. When we talk about wheels with concavity, you need to generally have two things. You have to have a wheel that has some good width to it, and you have to have a wheel that has a lower offset. Those are the two things that allow concavity to happen, because when you do that, you're essentially buying more room for the spoke to kind of get away from the brake. And the problem is when you use a front wheel drive car that has, let's say, a 40-something millimeter offset and can only go maximum, let's say, 8 inches of width, you can't clear your brake if we made the wheel concave. It would just crash, and there's no magic there. It's just math. So you're not gonna find it somewhere else, right? It's just one of those things. It's not generally possible. So the way around that, which I'm not telling you to do, but the way around that would essentially be putting a big fender filler on the car, going to a wider wheel, trying to, and then I don't remember the year, but if you ended up having a 4 on 4.5 Sentra, then you're going to be in a whole other ball of wax, because guess what 4 and 4.5 doesn't really have in common for higher positive offset stuff, and that is a lot of wheel choices.
Last question of the day. Jake for Life, 2010 Jetta sedan.
Okay.
I want to go bigger wheels. I have 17-inch right now. Can I go 19? It's lowered.
Yes, you can go 19. I would caution you on going 19, because what's going to happen is you have to keep the same overall rolling diameter when you choose your tire for that 19-inch. And what you're going to end up getting is a very short sidewall. The shorter the sidewall to compensate for the extra diameter that you're getting in the wheel is going to cause the car to feel a little bit more sporty, but it's going to be rougher on the road and it will be more prone to getting damaged, right? So if you drive in, just for the summer, you're really careful, you have good roads and wherever you live, then I think you can do it if that's the look you want to go for. If it's not, go with the 18-inch wheel, give yourself a little bit of cushion, but also a little bit of upsize from what you have, and you kind of catch both worlds. The other thing I want to keep in mind is, and people often do this when they're trying to fit wheels and tires, just because you choose a larger diameter wheel doesn't mean that you're kind of consuming some of the extra wheel gap. Your wheel gap will be consistent. It may not feel consistent from appearance, but when you use the same overall rolling diameter tire, technically the height of your tire, of your overall wheel and tire package, it's never changing, right? It's always, it doesn't matter if you use a 15-inch wheel or a 19-inch wheel, if you're keeping the same overall rolling diameter, you're going to choose a tire that essentially is going to be compensating by the height of the sidewall. So the bigger the wheel you go, the smaller the sidewall. The smaller the wheel you go, the larger the sidewall. I hope that makes sense. If you have any specific questions, just ask us.
I got a question actually for you. What happens if people try to compensate by making the wheel gap smaller by making the tire overall rolling diameter bigger? Do people do that? Not successfully, obviously.
So there's two things that happens when you do that. If you were to do that, let's consider that most modern day cars have vehicle stability systems and things like traction control and stuff like that. They're using a lot of the vehicle's speed and wheel speed sensors. So you're going to throw those cars into an absolute chaos, right? That's number one. Now let's say you have an old car. Let's negate that part that I just said. When you're going to do that, are you going to consume into the wheel well? Yeah, you will. You know, if you go with a taller tire than came on your car, you will start to do that. Now you have to be careful, right? Because now we understand that when your wheel is turned lock to lock, you're going to have an increase of scrub radius. And if you go too tall, you essentially are going to now have rubbing on either the front or the back of the wheel well when you turn. Now, will you take up some of that wheel gap? The answer to that is yes. The problem that you're always going to do when you do that is you're also going to affect it on the bottom end, right? If I increase the height of the tire by 3/4, well, let's say by 1 inch, which is a lot, that means I'm getting 1/2 inch on the top and 1/2 inch on the bottom, which means that you now just effectively lifted your vehicle by 1/2 inch, but then the other 1/2 inch is eating into the wheel well. I never suggest to do that because the truth is, that's where, when you see people go too short on a tire, we just talked about going too tall, but when you see people going too short on a tire, generally the car doesn't look good or it looks like something's amiss, and that's because they shorted the tire. There's a little bit more wheel gap than there should be. The tire looks short. You feel like no matter how much you lower the car, it just always has this weird thing about it. Pick the right size tires. They really do. Tires are just as complementative to the look of a vehicle with the right tire size as the wheel is. And I know that because even now, I'm like I said, I'm picking another set of wheels and tires for this car I'm playing with. And when I'm looking at them, I'm not only trying to find the wheel that's let's say the widest, I'm also trying to find out what's the widest tire I want. So I start with the tire, I find the tire that I want, and I think about what wheel I can use to fit the tire. Which I know maybe is a little bit backwards for people, but that's how I think, because I want to have the certain amount of contact patch first, and then I want to be able to pick the wheel that's kind of going to get me in the range so I can fit that tire comfortably. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
All right, that's it. Thanks for hanging out with us. We hope we answered a lot of your questions. If you have any more, don't forget that we do this every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. We come to you, we answer your questions, all that good stuff. Don't forget our podcast goes live at 3 p.m. today, as it always does, every other Wednesday, maybe every Wednesday, never know. Sometimes we get into it, who knows. 3 p.m. And don't forget Friday on our YouTube channel. We also put a piece of content every Friday. Get subscribed to our YouTube channel. That's where the podcast lives. That's where the Friday content lives. That's where we do a lot of cool things. And in addition to that, don't forget that your podcast is available on pretty much most major popular podcast platforms. So Spotify, iHeartMedia, iTunes. I don't know if Google Play is even a thing, but if it is,
AOL maybe.
I don't think so. I don't think there's that. But Spotify, or I think I probably said that 7 or 8 times now. So anyhow, thanks for that. If you want to listen to us in the car, that's how you get us. We'll talk to you later. Take care.